Voltal's thoughts wandered to a long-ago event. It had happened decades ago, but the memory burned bright. At that time, a single human life had saved his species. No one had asked for payment. No one had expected anything back. Yet that moment shaped the future. It echoed through time like a solemn vow. Meanwhile, in the research bay, Vashtor examined strange data streams. The alien scientist's sharp fingers danced over holograms. He studied the human body's mysteries. The data told stories of incredible endurance, impossible healing rates, sudden bursts of strength, the kind of things that defied logic. Vashtor's eyes narrowed. He whispered, "Humans are not like us." The ship's corridors smelled of cold metal and recycled air. The hum of machines blended with distant footsteps. Outside, the stars seemed indifferent to small struggles. But inside, each breath held the weight of survival. The Veridians faced extinction. Their population dwindled each year. Their bodies weakened by mysterious diseases. Voltal's gaze hardened. He remembered the human who saved his ancestor. Lisa Webb, the commander of a distant starship. She had risked everything in a deadly battle. Her courage had turned the tide. Her crew had pulled the Veridians from the edge of death. No one forgot that day. Suddenly, the ship's alarm broke the silence. The bridge shook briefly. Voltal's heart quickened. He barked orders with sharp, clear voice. "Report status." The crew responded instantly. A minor asteroid field approached fast. Navigating through it would test their skills. Outside, the asteroid stones glinted cold and unforgiving. The ship's shields flickered blue. The sound of stones scraping against armor filled the air. Voltal gripped the console. This was no ordinary challenge. The Veridians needed more than skill, a hope that came from an old debt. Meanwhile, Vashtor studied the human medical records again. He muttered, "They heal at a pace that breaks our science." The humans recovered from injuries that would cripple others. Their bodies used energy in strange ways. They survived wounds that should have ended them. The scientist shook his head in awe. Why must learn from them? The ship moved carefully through the field. Voltal watched the stones dodge and weave. Each second felt stretched like time slowed by fear. He thought about Lisa and Christopher Patel, the human soldier known for impossible feats. They were legends now, stories told in hushed tones. The Veridians owed humanity a debt deeper than worlds. It was a debt measured in lives saved and futures given. And now that debt had become their last hope. The stars outside held no promise, only cold distance. But inside the ship, a spark of something new stirred, something impossible. Voltal took a deep breath. His voice was calm but firm. "Prepare for contact. We will survive." The bridge crew nodded. The past was not forgotten. The future depended on it. Voltal stared at the human lying on the slab. Nearby, Vashtor adjusted the instruments. The room smelled of antiseptic and cold metal. A soft hum filled the air. The lights glowed a dull blue, casting long shadows on the walls. The human's chest rose and fell slowly. The skin looked fragile, almost like paper. However, something about it puzzled Voltal. The flesh did not tear easily. It did not bruise, even under the pressure of the clamps. Voltal reached out with a gloved finger. He pressed lightly on the arm. The skin barely dented. It felt firm, like a hard shell. Meanwhile, Vashtor studied the human's vital signs. His eyes widened behind thick lenses. "This is unusual," Vashtor murmured. "The tissue density is off the charts." He tapped the screen showing the human's scans. "Look here. The cells bind tighter than anything we know." Voltal frowned. "But how? We saw the damage to the ship. The human should have torn apart." He remembered the battle. The laser blasts that shattered shields, the explosions that ripped the hull. Yet the human still lived. Suddenly, Voltal recalled the moment. The human stood unharmed amid the chaos. The room was silent except for the machines. How could flesh be this strong? How could it heal so fast? The human's heartbeat remained steady. Vashtor adjusted the microscope. He zoomed in on a sample of the human skin. The cells shimmered with an odd glow. They moved quickly, repairing damage almost instantly. "We'll call this iron flesh," Vashtor explained quietly. The cells regenerate faster than anything documented in the galaxy. They adapt to stress in ways we cannot explain. Voltal nodded slowly. He felt a mix of awe and fear. This was no ordinary being. This was something special. Something alien to even the aliens. The human's eyes fluttered open. She looked at Voltal with calm strength. Her gaze was steady, unafraid. It held an unspoken promise. His mind ran through possibilities. The human's body was a fortress. It resisted wounds like no other. The ship's sensors beeped a warning. Outside, the storm raged louder. Lightning flashed against the thick glass. The wind howled like a wild animal. Yet, inside, the human's presence brought a strange calm. Vashtor recorded the data meticulously. Every detail mattered, every heartbeat, every breath. This was a discovery beyond science. Voltal looked at the human again. He remembered the battle scars on his own crew. The wounds that took weeks to heal, the pain that never fully left. Yet, this human soldier had stood untouched. The air felt heavy with meaning. The room seemed smaller, tighter. The truth pressed down on Voltal's chest like a weight. Meanwhile, Voltal's mind wandered to the stories, the legends about humans, their strange habits. It was not just willpower. The iron flesh was the first piece of a puzzle that could change everything. Voltal's fingers tapped nervously on the console. He tried to imagine what this meant. Could humans actually survive where others fell? Could they withstand injuries that would kill most species? Suddenly, a small beep sounded from the life support system. The human's vitals improved. The color returned to her face. She moved slightly, testing her strength. Voltal felt a shiver run through him. This was not a miracle, something terrifying. He glanced at Vashtor. The scientist's eyebrows were raised high. His mind raced with questions and theories, but he dared not speak them aloud. The human sat up slowly. Her muscles rippled beneath the skin. It was a strange sight. The skin stretched and shifted, yet held firm. It was like watching a living armor in motion. Voltal stepped closer, careful not to startle her. The room smelled faintly of ozone from the storm outside. The cold metal seemed less harsh now. The human's voice was soft but clear. "I'm fine," she said simply. "Just a quiet strength." Voltal nodded. "Wu saved your life," he said. "But you save ours now. Teach us." She smiled faintly, a rare warmth in the sterile room. "That's why I'm here." Meanwhile, Vashtor continued his scans. The data flowed in like a river. The human cells reacted to damage with an unheard speed. They sealed wounds before infection could take hold. The skin repaired itself like magic. Voltal thought about how this could change medicine. The storm outside began to calm. Thunder rolled far away. The ship creaked under the shifting pressure. Inside, a new hope took root. Voltal looked at the human with respect. She was not just a patient, a promise for the future. He knew then that Galactic Med School would need to learn this. The iron flesh was just the start. Voltal's heart quickened. He imagined a future where humans and aliens stood side by side, where no wound was too deep, no battle too fierce. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, a warning of an incoming attack. Voltal's calm vanished. He grabbed his weapon, but his eyes stayed on the human. She was already ready. The iron flesh was real, and it was impossible to ignore. The silence inside the Veridian ship felt heavy. The dim lights flickered softly above. Voltal stood near the viewport, watching the stars drift by. He thought about what Vashtor had just shared. The human's minds held secrets no alien brain could grasp. Meanwhile, the soft hum of the ship's engines filled the room. It was steady, like a heartbeat. Voltal's gaze narrowed. He had seen humans before, but never like this. Their minds defied every rule he knew. His fingers tapped the metal console, a nervous habit he barely noticed. The air smelled faintly of recycled oxygen and metal. It was cold, but not unwelcoming. Vashtor stepped closer. His eyes shone with excitement and concern. "The human mind," he said quietly, "does not just adapt. It fights back." A pause. "Not like any species we have studied." Voltal turned toward him. "Explain." The commander's voice was low but firm. Vashtor pulled up a hologram. Images of neurons, synapses, and brain waves danced in the air. Look here, he said. Their neural pathways can rewire in real time faster than any known organism. Injuries that would end a Veridian's mind only slow down a human. Voltal watched the glowing patterns shift and reform. It looked almost alive. How? He asked. No one knows. Humans survive mental trauma that should erase memories or cause insanity. Yet they push through. They rebuild themselves. Vashtor's voice held a mix of awe and disbelief. Suddenly, a sharp beep broke the moment. The ship's alert system flashed red. Voltal snapped back to the present. The external sensors showed a nearby asteroid field. The ship needed careful navigation. He straightened. Prepare for maneuver. We can discuss this later. The crew moved quickly. The ship's engines surged. Outside, jagged rocks spun slowly through space. The ship dipped and weaved like a dancer avoiding a storm. Voltal held the controls steady. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. After clearing the field, the ship floated into calm space. The stars twinkled again. Voltal leaned back in his chair. "Tell me more about their minds," he said to Vashtor. Vashtor's eyes reflected the starry void. Humans show what we call mental grit. It's their ability to resist giving up, even when trapped or hurt deeply. He paused. That stubbornness changes the brain itself. It rewires around damage in ways we cannot replicate. Voltal felt a chill. This was beyond science. Is it only mental? No, Vashtor replied. Their bodies and minds work together. The brain sends signals that heal faster than expected. Pain doesn't stop them. Fear doesn't control them. Voltal rubbed his chin. He remembered Lisa Webb's calm voice during battle. The way she kept her team alive, even in impossible odds. The human mind was a fortress. It did not surrender. Meanwhile, deep in the hospital bay, Lisa Webb sat quietly. She allowed herself a moment of rest. The sterile smell of antiseptic was sharp but familiar. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from exhaustion. She thought of Christopher Patel, the young soldier who survived without a scratch despite the blast. Her mind wandered to her own training. The endless drills, the mental toughness tests. They all built something inside her, something unyielding. Suddenly, a memory flashed, her commander's words after the first victory. "Pain is a teacher," he had said. "Fear is a shadow you learn to walk through." Lisa swallowed hard. That was no simple advice. Back on the Veridian ship, Voltal paced the deck. He sensed a shift in his understanding. Humans were not just strong. They were something else. Something the galaxy had never seen. He stopped near the viewport again. The stars seemed colder, more distant. Yet, the humans' minds burned like a bright flame amid the dark. He thought of the centuries of human history, wars, survival, endless challenges. Vashtor joined him, his voice softer now. This unyielding mind. It might be why the humans survived so long. Why they saved us when no one else would. Voltal nodded slowly. A debt beyond technology. He looked at the stars, then back to the silent bridge. It is our turn to learn. The ship's systems hummed with quiet power. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly. Yet inside, a new understanding grew. The human mind was not a puzzle to solve. It was a force to respect. Voltal's thoughts raced. Could this mental resilience be taught? Could other species learn it? The human's secret was more than skill. He glanced at the crew. They moved with practiced ease. Yet none showed the quiet fire he sensed in the humans. The fire that refused to die. Meanwhile, Lisa stood and stretched. Her muscles ached, but her mind stayed sharp. She knew more battles awaited. The pain, the fear, it was part of her now. She thought about her team, about Christopher. Their survival was not luck. It was the mind that refused to break. Voltal's ship crossed into a bright nebula. Colors swirled outside the windows. The sight was beautiful and strange. It reminded Voltal of the human spirit, vibrant, unpredictable. He turned to Vashtor. "We must share this with the Council. The course on human impossibilities is no longer optional. It is essential." Vashtor smiled faintly. "They will listen now." Voltal took a deep breath. "The humans gave us a gift. Not just their lives, but their unyielding minds. We owe them everything." The ship steadied in the nebula's glow. Stars blinked softly in the distance. And somewhere across the galaxy, humans prepared for the fight ahead. Their minds unbroken, their spirits strong. Voltal stared at the stars again. In the vast dark of space, the human mind shone like a beacon. The lesson was simple. The impossible was human. And now, every galactic med school would learn it too. The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's viewport. They looked like bright pins on a dark cloth. Voltal stood still, watching them, feeling a strange calm. The silence in the room was thick, almost heavy. It wrapped around him like a blanket, but cold. Suddenly, the ship jolted. A soft hum filled the cabin. Vashtor's eyes flicked to the console. He tapped a few buttons quickly. The data streamed in fast, a flood of numbers and symbols. Yet, none of it explained what just happened. Voltal's thoughts drifted. He remembered the moment long ago when humans saved one of their kind. It was an act without logic, without asking for anything back. The memory felt like a small flame in the dark. It seemed impossible, yet real. Meanwhile, Lisa Webb stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the starfield. She felt the weight of her crew's hopes resting on her shoulders. The ship's hum felt like a heartbeat in the quiet night. She knew that human lives had changed the course of alien history, but no one truly understood how or why. Outside, the vastness of space seemed endless, cold, and unforgiving. Yet inside the ship, a warmth lingered, an invisible bond linking species. It was a bond beyond science, beyond reason. Suddenly, the ship's lights dimmed. A soft glow pulsed gently along the walls. Voltal felt it deep in his chest, like a whisper of something old and true. He looked at Vashtor. The scientist's face was unreadable, but his eyes held a spark of wonder. Vashtor spoke quietly. This energy. It's unlike anything we've seen. It's almost alive." Voltal nodded slowly. "It feels like a promise kept," he said. "A debt paid in ways we cannot measure." The silence returned, heavier now but filled with meaning. Lisa walked over to Voltal and Vashtor. Her boots made soft thuds on the metal floor. She studied their faces, trying to read their thoughts. This feeling, this connection, it was beyond her training. Christopher Patel, standing nearby, adjusted his gear. He felt the tension in the air, but also a strange hope. He remembered his grandmother's stories about humans helping others without reward. Maybe that was the key. Maybe humans lived by rules alien minds couldn't grasp. The ship's engine room was warm, humming with power. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. Voltal breathed it in deeply, grounding himself. He looked at the controls. The readings showed a strange energy flow, weaving through the ship like veins of light. Suddenly, alarms rang out. The ship lurched again, but this time it felt different. Less like danger, more like a wake-up call. Vashtor rushed to the console, fingers flying over the keys. "The energy is sensing with our systems," he said. "It's adapting, changing." Voltal's heart raced. This was no accident. The bond humans created was alive. It was becoming part of them all. Lisa stepped forward, her voice steady. "We must understand this bond. It could save us." Outside, the stars blinked, almost as if they were watching. The cosmos seemed to breathe along with the ship. A rhythm emerged, steady and true. Christopher felt a sudden calm wash over him. The fear of extinction, the weight of responsibility, it all lessened. Because somewhere deep inside, he knew something bigger was at work. Voltal closed his eyes briefly. He pictured the human who saved his comrade. A stranger's kindness given freely. No demands, no conditions. It was a concept alien minds struggled to grasp. It had changed everything. Meanwhile, the ship's lights brightened again. The pulsing glow grew stronger, wrapping the ship like a shield. Voltal felt a surge of energy, powerful and pure. It filled him with hope. Vashtor leaned close to the console. "The bond is real. It's more than just metaphor." Lisa nodded. "We owe them everything. It's time to repay the debt." The ship drifted through space, carrying more than just metal and crew. It carried a promise that could rewrite the fate of galaxies. Suddenly, a wave of light flashed across the viewport. It painted colors the crew had never seen. Blues deep as oceans, greens bright as forests, and reds warm as fire. Voltal took a deep breath. He could almost feel the heartbeat of the universe in that light. The impossible kindness of humans was not just a story, a power that no technology could mimic. Christopher moved to the center of the room. He looked around at the faces of his alien friends. "We're not alone," he said softly. "And we never were." Lisa smiled faintly. "This bond, it's a new kind of strength." The hum of the ship grew steady again. The strange energy settled into a gentle rhythm. It was as if the ship itself had become alive, connected to the hearts of its crew. Voltal felt a tear slide down his cheek, not from sadness but from awe. He had believed in science and reason above all. Now he understood there was something more. Vashtor's fingers paused on the console. "Our med school must teach this," he said. "Not just the science of healing, but the science of impossible kindness." The bridge fell silent, each person lost in thought. The stars outside kept shining, endless and bright. Suddenly Voltal stood tall. "We will face extinction together," he declared. "But thanks to humans, we carry a new power." Lisa stepped beside him, her eyes shining. "A power that no enemy can take away." Christopher clenched his fists, ready for whatever came next. He knew the bond would guide them through darkness and into light. The ship glided forward, cutting through the void. It was not just a vessel anymore. It was a symbol of hope. Voltal looked once more at the stars. He whispered, "Thank you, humans, for showing us the impossible." The crew stood united, their hearts linked by a bond that defied logic and reason, because some things, even in a universe of endless mystery, could never be explained. The sky over Veridian's capital burned a deep red. Fires flickered across the horizon. Smoke curled in thick black waves. The air tasted sharp and bitter. The once peaceful city lay chaotic and trembling. Voltal, the alien commander, stood on the rubble-strewn street. His armor scratched and dented, his antennae twitching anxiously. He scanned the ruins. His eyes caught flashes of movement, enemies closing in. The Veridian forces were losing ground fast. Suddenly, a loud roar shattered the tense silence. The ground shook beneath Voltal's feet. From the darkened sky, a human ship descended. Its engines hummed powerfully. Bright lights cut through the smoke. Voltal's eyes widened. The humans had arrived. His heart pounded with a mix of hope and disbelief. Years ago, they had saved a human life without asking anything back. Now, the humans were here, ready to fight alongside them. Lisa Webb, the human commander, stepped out from the ship. Her presence was commanding, calm but fierce. She wore a battle suit marked with the Earth flag. Her eyes held determination. She scanned the battlefield quickly. They nodded without words. This alliance was their last chance. Meanwhile, Vashtor, the alien scientist, hurried through the broken streets toward the command center. The Veridian bio shields were failing. The enemy's weaponry was adapting too fast. If they didn't act soon, everything would fall apart. He reached the command center, where Lisa and Voltal were already planning their next move. The room was dim, filled with holographic maps and blinking consoles. The air smelled faintly of ozone and burning circuits. Vashtor laid out new data. The enemy ships used an unknown energy wave. It disrupted their shields and scrambled their sensors. The Veridian technology couldn't counter it. But the humans might have a solution. Lisa's fingers danced over her tablet. "We have an experimental weapon aboard," she said. "It's risky, but it might stop those waves." Voltal frowned. "Risky how?" "It uses human neural energy," Lisa explained. "It taps into the pilot's brain. It needs a strong mind." Voltal thought of Christopher Patel, the human soldier known for his sharp reflexes and quick thinking. He wondered if Christopher was ready for such a burden. Suddenly, alarms blared. Enemy forces breached the outer defenses. The battle escalated outside as explosions rattled the walls. The command center shook with each blast. Lisa turned to Voltal. "We don't have time. We must act now." Voltal nodded and called out, "Christopher, prepare for the neural weapon." Christopher appeared, his face set and steady. He moved swiftly, donning the neural interface helmet. Wires connected the device from his head to the ship's control system. His breath was calm but deep. Steadying himself, Voltal watched Christopher closely. The neural weapon was untested in battle. If it failed, it could harm the pilot severely. But it was their only hope. Outside, the enemy ships closed in. Their energy waves pulsed through the sky, disrupting systems and lighting up the clouds in eerie blue flashes. The Veridian fighters struggled to stay in formation. Meanwhile, inside the human ship, Christopher's mind sensed with the weapon's interface. Streams of data flooded his consciousness. He fought to keep focus. The energy danced around his senses like sparks. Voltal and Lisa coordinated the attack from the command center. "Target the main enemy ship," Lisa commanded. "Christopher, channel the energy now." Christopher clenched his jaw. His hands moved over the controls with precision. The neural weapon surged. A powerful burst of energy radiated from the ship, cutting through the enemy's disruptive waves. Outside, enemy ships faltered. Their shields flickered and broke. The Veridian fleet rallied, pushing forward with renewed strength. Explosions bloomed in space like deadly flowers. Voltal's heart raced. He felt the tide turning. The impossible alliance was working. Suddenly, Christopher gasped. The neural weapon overloaded his neural circuits. Pain flashed across his face. He gritted his teeth, pushing through the agony. The ship trembled violently. Lisa's voice crackled over comms. "Hold on, Christopher. Just a little longer." Voltal clenched his fists. This was the moment that mattered. The fate of both species hung in the balance. The enemy flagship exploded in a brilliant blaze of light. The remaining ships scattered, retreating into the void. The energy waves ceased. Silence fell over the battlefield. Voltal exhaled deeply. The city's fires still burned, but hope had returned. Christopher slumped in his seat, drained but alive. Lisa rushed to his side, her eyes softening. She helped him remove the helmet. Voltal stepped forward. "You saved us," he said quietly. Christopher shook his head weakly. "We saved each other." The survivors of Veridian and the humans gathered amid the ruin. The air filled with the scent of smoke and relief. The stars above twinkled like distant promises. Voltal looked at Lisa. "Your species' strength is beyond our understanding." Lisa smiled faintly. "Maybe it's because our strengths come from impossible things. Things others don't believe." Vashtor approached, holding a small vial. "This is the serum we created from humans' unique biology. It could help rebuild Veridian defenses." The crowd murmured in surprise and gratitude. The impossible alliance had given them a second chance. Voltal thought back to the day humans saved one of their own. Now that act echoed across the galaxy. It reminded them all that impossible things became real when trust and courage united. The battle was over, but the journey was just beginning. The Veridians and humans stood together, ready to face whatever came next. The impossible was now their reality. The stars outside the window blinked gently. The ship hummed a quiet song of survival. Voltal stood still, feeling the weight of the moment. The Veridian fleet had fought hard. Yet, the humans had led the final charge. Lisa Webb's calm voice echoed through the comms. Her words carried hope and steady resolve. Silence fell like a soft blanket over frozen chaos. Voltal watched the crew around him. Faces wore relief and exhaustion. The air smelled faintly of burnt circuits and recycled oxygen. The sharp sting of adrenaline faded slowly. For the first time in many cycles, peace felt real. Meanwhile, Vashtor checked the ship's systems. The scientist's fingers danced over controls. Vital signs of the wounded blinked steadily on monitors. The life support glowed steady and sure. Every small beep counted like a heartbeat. Christopher Patel sat in the corner. Breathing deep, his body ached but his spirit soared. He thought of the human lives lost. Each one a story, a memory etched deep. He remembered the alien life they had once saved. A life given without condition. The truth settled in the room like a gentle rain. The debt of kindness was not forgotten. It had grown into a bridge made of trust and strength. The humans had returned the favor in full. Voltal's mind wandered to the past. The moment when humans saved a lone Veridian. It seemed like a simple act then, but it shaped everything. It taught a lesson bigger than war or peace. The ship's lights dimmed as the crew prepared to rest. The hum of machines softened. Outside, distant stars twinkled in quiet witness. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for what came next. Suddenly, a message beeped sharply. Voltal answered swiftly. It was from the Galactic Med School. The voice was formal but warm. They spoke of a new course. A course on human impossibilities. Voltal smiled quietly. The course was a tribute, a way to honor the humans' unexpected strength. It would teach future medics what humans could endure, and what no other species could. The course would be simple. Stories of courage, healing, and resilience. Lessons learned at the edge of life and death. Lessons that words alone could not capture. Meanwhile, Lisa looked out at the stars. She felt a deep connection to the galaxy. The humans' role was clear. They were not just survivors, guardians of a strange kind of power. The ship's corridor filled with soft footsteps. Crew members moved quietly, sharing tired smiles. Vashtor paused to look at a small plant growing near the window. Its green leaves shone under the starlight. Life found a way to thrive here too. Christopher thought about the future. The battles might come again. But now, they had a new weapon, knowledge. The wisdom of humans and aliens combined. A bond forged in fire and empathy. Voltal felt hope rise inside him. The war had shown their limits, but it also showed their strengths. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humans were one of them. A species that could teach even the oldest ones. The ship turned slowly toward home. The path ahead was long but clear. The crew settled into a calm rhythm. Rest would heal their bodies. Reflection would heal their souls. Suddenly, Voltal spoke aloud to no one in particular. "We have much to learn." His voice was steady and sure. "And much to teach." The stars outside watched silently. The galaxy whispered ancient truths. And a new chapter began. A course in humility, courage, and the impossible made real. The humans had changed everything. Not through power alone, but through heart. The future was bright. And the story, just beginning.